Since President Trump has returned to office, he has been extremely vocal about the use of tariffs and how might those tariffs affect your money. Stay with us today and learn more. Welcome to a special edition of Rise in Retirement, where it is our goal to help you optimize and simplify your financial plan. My name is Jet, and with me today is a special guest, Coley Neal, who is a chartered financial analyst and the lead investment strategist on our investment committee here at the firm. We are W.A. Smith Financial, a firm trusted by thousands of individuals all over the U.S. to help you focus more on your life, worry less about your money. And sitting in Taco's place today is Coley. Coley, glad to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me, Jet.
We've been getting a lot of questions from clients recently about tariffs. It's all the rage. Trump's been very vocal about the use of tariffs early on in his second term here. And so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions specifically for our viewers about how tariffs will potentially affect their money, affect the economy. Draw on some of your experience and your knowledge as you've been looking at this a lot.
Yeah, Jet, first, thanks for having me on here today. There's one thing we've known about Trump for the last 30 years, tariffs. He is a big fan of tariffs. He is a big fan of William McKinley from back in 1900s. With the tariffs right now, we do not have a crystal ball. We're not able to necessarily say what is going to take place, but we can look at probabilities of what may transpire from tariffs. So with tariffs, we can think of these as a tax on goods. So let's use Canada and Mexico as examples. You place tariffs on goods coming in, it means that U.S. consumers are going to have to pay a higher amount, or producers are going to have to pay a higher amount on those goods being shipped in. So what can happen is you can have a flow-through effect on the individuals. Mm-hmm. You could see the prices that you and I are paying at stores. You can see those start to elevate. That could potentially lead to higher prices, higher levels of a CPI, Consumer Price Index. The Producer's Price Index could see a little tick back up in inflation. This may create a little additional volatility in the market. So those are some of the ramifications that can transpire from tariffs.
You start talking about increased price, higher inflation after the last 2 years run that we had and some of the policies that the administration has put into play to try to control this. And you can understand why this is kind of a big hot button pressing issue for a lot of people. And you're already starting to see some volatility creep into the markets a little bit. So before we go any further, if you like today's video, if you like today's content, like, share, subscribe to the channel, turn that bell notification on so that you're alerted of every time we post a new topic here. And we've got some great information. Stay tuned through the end of the video. I'm going to send you to an awesome landing page where you can get a lot of great resources for no cost to you. So a couple of specific questions for you. So he's been extremely vocal about using tariffs. Let's talk about key sectors of the stock market. So if these proposed tariffs, continue, how will they impact certain key sectors of the market? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So let's think about the housing market right now. Housing, we have a low inventory. We've seen recently that, the number of homes being built by information that comes out through the data, it's showing that there is a low inventory of homes. Well, if we tried to start up building of new homes, a lot of our lumber comes from Canada. So if we were to impose a tariff on lumber coming in from Canada, let's say, for example, that the cost to your house, say it's going to be a $500,000 house, just for an example.
Sure.
Your $500,000 house is now going to be higher because that lumber price is going to increase. It's
already increased.
Exactly.
If you date back to the COVID years when lumber skyrocketed.
Exactly.
So now you're talking about, and that has come back to down to earth a little bit since that time frame, but you're talking about even higher prices at that point.
Exactly. And you know me, I'm a DIYer. I see this all the time from pre-COVID and even what we're seeing right now. Lumber prices are still elevated. So the price that you're going to pay for that home, it's going to go up by a certain percentage. Mm-hmm. We also think about the technology sector. We get a lot of our chips from overseas. So a tariff that's implemented on China, you're going to see those chip prices come in. They're going to be higher. Now, one of the good things is technology companies tend to have higher margins. So there's a little bit more wiggle room in there. But if we're thinking about consumer discretionary goods, apparel, stuff like that, those are really tight margins. But most of these items are produced overseas. So as they come in, the only way to really recoup that margin is to pass that cost along to the consumer. So right there, you're going to see a price increase. Whenever you go to a Walmart or somewhere like that to buy your goods, they're going to pass that on to the consumer.
Would it be fair to say if they pass that price on to the consumer, prices go up in the marketplace for these goods and services? Do we need to see consumer spending stay strong? Does that then help companies' balance sheets, their revenue, their profitability, stock price in a positive light? Could you see a situation where as long as consumer spending stays strong and people continue to pay these elevated prices, that could positively affect the stock market?
It could, but there would possibly be an inflection point to where you need wages to keep up with inflationary pressure.
Sure.
Well, we've seen wage growth, but if wage growth gets to a point where it can't keep up with inflationary pressures, that's when you're going to see the consumers start to rein back in their spending. And that could have a negative downstream impact, which could, further cause some of the balance sheets to kind of wobble a little bit and not be as strong.
What do you think for the average Joe out there who's been hearing the word tariff and hearing President Trump talk about tariffs? What do you think from his lens, the president's lens? Why is he so adamant about the use of tariffs? What do you think the number one thing for him would be? Why would he say that this is a good thing long term?
I think a lot of what, and it's asking a lot to get in the mind of Donald Trump.
Sure.
I think a lot of what he is doing right now is a lot of posturing. And a lot of this is, in my opinion, for national security. I think a lot of this comes down to, if you look what just took place with Canada and with Mexico, a lot of this was to secure the borders from illegal immigration to the flow of drugs into and the flow of firearms out of the country. So this was a good positioning chip, a good way to kind of start these talks to really increase the border security. So a lot of this goes down to national protection, in my opinion. And the same plays out with China as well, given some of their nefarious activities over the years with, let's call it industrial espionage.
Right.
This is a tactic that Trump believes in.
Yeah. Okay. Any historical precedents, the use of tariffs in the past, any historical precedents that we can look at when it comes to the market's potential reaction to this type of policy?
Yeah, it's difficult to think of this. There are points in time, and we can think of NAFTA. We can think of, certain times in the past. Now, things have changed. Trump's favorite person, William McKinley, the tariff king, as he has called him. Our marketplace was different back then. We were an agrarian market, and then we evolved into a manufacturing market. So a lot of tariffs were used for protectionism. We were trying to make it more where the U.S. manufactured goods, but we had to lower the tariffs because we made so many goods. We actually needed to export these items.
Sure.
What may end up coming out of this is more of a reciprocity. Now, if you think about NAFTA or something on those lines, it's more of a reciprocity to where there are tariffs from both sides. Let's do a mutually beneficial reduction in tariffs for specific goods that flow across borders. So that would be one of the best examples as I have at this time, but that's from a reciprocity view. Utilization of tariffs as more restriction, more of a nationalistic protectionism, that's very difficult now in like a U.S., given that we are more of a service-based economy. And also that if you try to do that, it's difficult because supply chains, we're such a globalized country or a globalized world these days. It's very difficult to really focus in on using those kind of restrictive tariffs. So reciprocity tariffs, they may be very beneficial, and especially if you look at it from a national security standpoint.
Right. Okay. So final question for you today. You are the lead investment strategist for our internal investment committee here at W.A. Smith Financial. So we manage our clients' money, and we try to do that on an active management style basis. How does something like this or something else that would occur, whether it's economically or it's policy from Washington, how does, in this case, tariffs, how does it change maybe the way you think about the management of our investment strategies for our clients, or what are the types of things that you're looking at sort of proactively as we continue to try to manage to the ends that each portfolio strategy is built off of?
Yeah,
How's your thinking change, if at all?
No, what it does, and the beauty of this job is it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. And as you know, I mean, we had to look at things differently during COVID. We had to look at things differently during the inflationary period. How do we need to reposition our portfolios? So one of the key things that we do is we have a very stringent 5-step due diligence process that we go through. And one of the key components in there is the regulatory environment. And that's kind of what we're looking at right now with tariffs. So what we need to do is really think about our clients and where they fit along the risk return spectrum. You know, what's their risk score, as we tend to say it. And that's one of the areas where we need to, and this is kind of a call out to the investors, to our clients or anybody that's in the markets right now, is if you have questions, this is a good time to really rethink what your risk score is. What is your risk tolerance, especially if you are getting close to that retirement age, or if you're in retirement, you need to start thinking of, okay, what would a potential revisiting of an inflationary environment, how would that impact my income needs? How do I need to rethink this? So this is just a great call to action to get back with your investment advisor, really work through this with them. And we're behind the scenes, and myself and the investment committee, behind the scenes, constantly digesting this information and trying to put this into our overall investment plan and how it incorporates into each one of our strategies.
Yep. I think my major takeaway in hearing you talk about tariffs and how we look at it, how it impacts the management style, the decision-making process that we have behind the scenes for the portfolios that we help our clients handle. Kind of two pieces of advice for you out there today. So number one, make sure that your investment strategy is aligned, that your financial advisor that you deal with has a pulse to whoever it is, whether it's him or there's a committee that they trust, that there's a pulse and an understanding of how this type of thing, tariffs and policy, will affect the market, could affect the market, and then in turn, how it affects the strategy that they are using or that they're advising you to use when it comes to your investment strategy. And the second thing is to get a second opinion, specifically when it comes to, am I overexposed in the marketplace? Do I have too much risk? Do I have not enough risk? We talk about it all the time in our case examples here on Rise in Retirement about making sure that you get a second opinion if you feel like something is missing. Perfect option for you if you're watching today. Go to riseinretirement.com. There's a link to that landing page in the description below on this video. There's a ton of great resources there. You can get free guides. We have an election guide on there that a lot of people are requesting right now. You can get a copy of Bill's book. Most importantly, if you, like many out there, are somebody who wants to get your specific scenario analyzed by an advisor here on our team, go to riseinretirement.com, request a retirement tune-up financial review. It's complimentary. There's no obligation. We can meet with you virtually. We can meet with you in person if you're close to one of our home offices, either in Florida or Ohio. Get a retirement tune-up. Come talk to us. Coley, really thank you for coming on, because Andrew and I talk a lot about case examples and scenarios, and it's fun and people like it, but I wanted to talk about this because it is hot right now, and there's a lot of questions that not only our clients but viewers have. So appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, thanks, Jet. Yeah. Appreciate you having me.
And that is it for today. We will see you next time here on Rise in Retirement.